Hello, everyone, and welcome to our weekly 30-minute webinar. My name is John Deline, a systems engineer here at Variphy, and I'll be your host for today's session. We're going to be talking about building organizational reports for your Zoom call queues. Here to present today, we have Matt Sykes, a fellow systems engineer and a man who wears many hats here at Variphy. Is your Zoom hat fitting nicely today, Matt?
Not too bad, John. Thank you.
All right. Please note that these webinars are always recorded and posted within 24 hours. So if you have to leave early or just want to be able to review it again at your own pace, check the webinars page on our website for all past and upcoming sessions. First, we'll start off with a quick overview of our company and what we do. Then we'll jump into a live demo where Matt's going to guide us through the building of organizational reports for your Zoom call queues. We'll leave time for Q&A, so during the demo, if you have any questions, make sure to enter them by accessing the Q&A option. After Q&A, we'll award one lucky attendee a $50 Amazon gift card. So hang around to see if you've won. Variphy is the preferred analytics and management solution for Cisco collaboration. Deployable either on-prem or as a hosted cloud solution, we provide industry-leading CDR reporting and call analytics, as well as customizable dashboards and widgets, UCCX reporting, remote phone control, change management, Cisco Cube CDR, and our latest additions, Zoom and WebEx call reporting. If you have any questions on any of our features, please contact us at support@variphy.com or reach out to your account manager. One more thing before we kick this off. For an additional fee, Variphy offers an enhanced consulting service to our customers. Variphy's SE team engages with you on a one-on-one basis to remotely provide additional consulting, report building, dashboard configuration, and system monitoring assistance. This is a service that provides you a dedicated Variphy SE to do the heavy lifting, giving you a stress-free, hands-off experience. For more information, please contact us or your account manager, and we'd be glad to speak more in depth about pricing and terms of service for our enhanced consulting services, or ECS. I'm going to hand things over to Matt now. Please remember to submit any questions into the Q&A, and we'll address them towards the end of his presentation. All right, over to you, Matt.
Time to go into the wild.
Yes, sir, it is.
All right, let's make sure I pick the proper screen here. All right, there we are, and it should be sharing out in a moment. There we go. Okay, so hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Matt Sykes with Variphy here. As John just set the table for me, correct. Today we are going to cover kind of building, call queue reports for Zoom Phone within Variphy. There's maybe another component or two that we'll probably add in here. The main basis for this session here today is really to showcase a couple of new secondary grouping options that we have for the reporting for the Zoom Phone structured reports. So those are going to be call queues and call department. So definitely that's going to be kind of more of a grander kind of reporting for an enterprise-wide organization that may be looking for these style reports. Now, we do certainly already have kind of some reports that are similar. So on the Variphy knowledge base underneath the Zoom Phone reporting templates, I already have one that's built out kind of around an organizational style of reporting. So this one is broken by two grouping levels in the secondary section. So it's going to be by department and then by the users that are within these organizations or within these departments. What I'm showcasing you today is going to be the secondary grouping off of site. So another container within the Zoom data set, but we're going to package in call queues and call departments as a secondary grouping measure there. So I know that may have been confusing just to hear. It's kind of confusing to say. So let me just dive right into the analytics module here into one of my Zoom Phone labs here. So I'm going to start out in the history section here real briefly, as I'd like to do. This is kind of, as I always describe it, is a sandbox kind of a quick searching approach. And I'm going to key on some data from last week. I'm going to open this wide open for our default field here of caller number. It starts with one character or better. That is a single character wildcard, that capital X. For the previous week, it should garner me some results. So I have 700 results here to go and peruse for the for this time frame. I can certainly eyeball them, but really what I want to show you is these couple fields over here. So it's kind of what we're searching. Definitely this search filter that I'm using is kind of all encompassing. So for last week, there are definitely 700 calls. I can definitely be more intricate with some of these filters, and I will be in a moment. But mainly I want to show you here for the secondary grouping measure for today's session. So we're going to be using called department and called queues. Again, these were not supported secondary grouping measures off of the called site until Variphy 15.1. So I definitely want to get this out into the forefront so people in the field know that this option is there for the more kind of global grand kind of enterprise reporting. So Variphy is able to read this content in a metadata sync file off of the Zoom API. So as you can see here, I definitely can see shipping executive. So I have some departments. Also, we can see right next door, I have some call queues. So there's purchasing, government sales, and probably a handful of others. But really what I wanted to showcase is kind of how to build this out on more of a grander scale in the structured reports. So that's what we're going to walk through right now. So I have a couple sample reports already built, but mainly I want to take a look at sites. Excuse me. Ooh. So I'm going to be focusing on primarily just inbound call traffic to the environment, but don't get me wrong, most certainly we can do this bidirectionally, but I'll just pick on, actually, you know what? I have a better idea. Let's use direction. I want to pick on inbound call directions. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'm probably going to piggyback off of this and put a secondary filter on this as well. So of all the inbound call traffics, 272 from the previous week timeframe that whittled off the other 428, I do believe. So we can see all these should be of the inbound variety, no internals, no outbounds. So to group this information by those call queues or by call department is pretty much where we're going to be driving to right now. So let's go actually dive into the reporting and actually take a quick peek at it. So I've already built out a couple structured reports here for this presentation. Let me zoom in a touch more. So I built out these reports here. So we'll start off with the call queues. So in the structured report here, it's pretty much basic names and header and summary showcasing stuff on the first pages. But the search sets, another name for search filters within Variphy. Giving us a little name label of inbound calls to sites. This will appear on the report results. But the main filter I'm driving on is actually what I just used in the history section. So I'm just going to use inbound. So this is going to be pretty much all encompassing for the Zoom API from the inbound perspective. And secondarily, in the grouping statistics section, now that we have accessibility to secondarily group by a call queue or a call department, depending on what style of environment and what the managers or supervisors or executives are looking for, the level of reporting certainly can be achieved. So in this example here, I definitely have multiple sites in this data set here for those 272 calls, definitely multiple call queues. So we're going to start with these two. Previously, we did not have called queue, again, as a secondary grouping type, nor do we have department in there. Now we do in Variphy 15.1. So again, kind of giving that more global representation. So having said that, I've thrown in some measures and statistical options that I want grouped for these call queues, and with some queuing information as well. I'm also going to include primary and secondary data groupings by a time unit. So I'm going to provide data tables or period over period, if you will, just based off of total call counts for date for that, the 7 days from last week. I'm also going to include some kind of charting representation as well for this information too. But at the more kind of grand scale of the summarization for this report, I'm going to also kind of bake in period over period for some queue measures as well for the all calls of this inbound variety to these call queues collectively. Now, whether or not we want to include the granular call history details would certainly give you more bang for your buck in the report, but certainly would make the report much lengthier. Now, obviously, as Variphy, I always say that we have kind of a flex model of a structured report, so we can certainly suppress or include what we need to when we want to. So let's go ahead and just give this a quick run here. Now we'll go ahead and we'll run this. I will run an HTML just so I can see it in the browser view, and we'll point at previous week. We're going to go ahead and run this and then take a quick review. I definitely need to zoom in on that. Okay, so for those 272 calls that we saw for last week, so that is going to be our high-level summarized counter, if you will. Definitely have a lot of other measures and metrics built in here as well. So total averages for duration, total duration, what the queued count is. So we have 272 calls that are of the inbound variety to multiple sites, multiple CQs, but the queue count is only 153 out of this 272. Just want to make mention of that. A little more than 50% we can see here, but then also have the other additional kind of queue measures as well at the high grouped summary level. So there's definitely multiple CQs. But the purpose for this webinar today and the value for it is the secondary groupings, like I made mention, off of site. So we can see here the different sites that I have. We have Birmingham, Parma, Lake Havasu, Santa Monica, et cetera, et cetera. But the secondary piece is going to bear fruit for the call queues. So this is what can deliver kind of that enterprise or kind of global reporting for the executives or the management. So we can see here that 98 calls for last week were presented to the Birmingham site on the inbound variety, but only 8 of them actually rang down to call queues. Okay, if we want to know what the call queues got rang, we've included that now with the secondary option for called queue. So we can see sales, accounting, etc. I definitely rank these based off of total call count from highest to lowest, kind of making a little bit of a leaderboard kind of a table as well. But again, the broken down individual metrics for the queue statistics for each and every one of these CQs. What is total call duration for the queue? What is the average duration? What are the total queue duration times as well, and averages therein? Maybe a few empties, but this is lab data I'm entertaining here. But this is certainly a nice to have. Now, we didn't have it down to the call queue or the department before, but now certainly in Verify 15.1 we certainly do. Again, I'm including data tables for period over period broken down by date collectively for these 272 calls for all this content. We can see when the total calls were for each one of these days from last week and what the corresponding queue count is for those days as well, collectively for all the calls. Now also, and some graphical representation as well. But also I've broken it down even further as we've always been able to do for the grouped measures. So I'm including secondary tables and charts here as well. May make it a little too lengthy, but certainly we could suppress what's unneeded once again or undesired. But here's a period over period breakdown for all the CQs that are falling underneath Birmingham, all the CQs that are falling underneath all these other sites as well. Now I'm just keying off of total call counts, but I could certainly embed additional measures as well. So if we wanted total call counts, queued call counts, answered call counts, not answered call counts, abandoned, voicemail, etc. So there's definitely plenty more that can be added here. And then definitely there's graphical representation as well. I'm just selecting total calls here for now for this Birmingham site and the CQs underneath it. But if I wanted to, again, I could certainly add additionals in here in addition to total calls. So queue counts, answer counts, percentages, etc. So certainly those options are viable. So I'm not going to bore us with kind of walking through all of these graphics, but definitely this is something that's fantastic to have now. Again, I kind of beaten on this a little bit, but kind of the global kind of enterprise kind of reporting all the way down to the CQs or even the departments. So I have another example here because now, again, called department is now a newer secondary grouping option in Verify 15.1 off of the site container. So the site container, I kind of view this as kind of another organizational level within the Zoom API data set. So I would call it, I would say site is above department and then department is certainly above users, but definitely we can kind of give you that multi-tier kind of reporting aspect. So from the department level, so again, 272 calls of the inbound variety, just like the last report, so that should be on par. Same counts and measures there as well. But in the grouping for these 272 calls, we're asking for the site, which will be Birmingham, Parma, Lake Havasu, but then the corresponding departments underneath those sites that are handling the call traffic. Now, certainly within my lab, I don't think I have everything mapped properly, so I don't believe I have everything rolling up. But in an environment out in the field, certainly all this should be defined within the API, and we should be able to easily read this and then roll these numbers right up with visual relative ease, I would say. So I have all the data details actually turned on in this report. It's a pretty lengthy report, but as I made mention, this can certainly be suppressed. But if we wanted to look at these 42 calls for the shipping department, for instance, we can certainly click on that measure within the grouping section, get shot down a little bit in the report to that section that actually contains that grouped details for that grouping entity, which this one is called Department of Shipping. So we can see all the external numbers that are calling in, what are their call durations, who they're being handled by, for instance, the user levels, and also including, the organizational information. So Birmingham being the site and shipping department being the department. Whether or not a call has voicemail or not, we'll certainly be able to identify that. Are the recordings being turned on? Is it a non-answered call or a zero duration call? We can very easily identify that as well. More charts, just like for the CQs here, but down to the department level. So maybe a little more than is needed. But again, we adopt the flex format. So if we didn't need all these granular tables for each one of these departments or the other reports kind of call queues, again, most certainly we can suppress that with ease. Let me just jump back there. So if I'm looking at the department report one more time, or I guess initially for this call here, but again, my initial search filter for this is just keying off of everything coming inbound in this data set. Then the secondary measure, the secondary section, if you will, of that structure report, I'm telling you to group it and package it by the called site and then secondarily by the called department, sorted by highest to lowest. We can certainly put maximum counts as well as minimums on here as well to showcase in those reports. Maybe we only need the top 10, for instance. We don't need every department or every site underneath the organizational hierarchy. We can certainly do that as well. And then we can also pick on whatever kind of grouping measures that we want to see for the reports. If it's just totals, or do we need specific identification for abandonment, for answer rates, forward rates, voicemail, etc. And so there's counts, percentages, totals, and average durations that are easily baked in there. And then whether or not we want to showcase kind of this grouped information in a kind of data tables as well as graphical charts or even volume tables as well. So definitely have a lot of options there. Now, like I said, this one was going to be somewhat short and sweet. So that's definitely the reporting structure that I did want to make mention of and definitely highlight here on today's session. But now, one thing, I'm definitely a dashboard guy, so I'm going to pull up my visual aids here. Now, the widgets definitely, I'll just make this mention, they definitely do not have secondary grouping level access, but there's still definitely a lot of information that can be garnered from these. So even in a dashboard, of course, now it's all jumbled up on me. Pardon me a moment. Let's put these side by side. You should be up here. Okay, so for those 270 some odd calls for that previous week that I was entertaining, these widgets are using exactly the same kind of search functionality that my report is, just keying off of a search filter of inbound. Let me just move this around a little bit. There we are. Call queues and the departments. Okay. So again, a lot of similar information that we had on the report. This again does not have that secondary grouping option for those called queues or the called departments, but we can certainly tap dance a little bit, if you will, with the primary option, and then maybe actually utilizing an additional search parameter here. Let me zoom in for your eyes. So as an example here, instead of just keying off of is inbound for my filter set, I'm also going to call upon the sites that I do want that to call upon. And then in the grouping or in the grouping off of the configuration here, I'm going to break it down by call queue on this one. The other widget in the background that's dim is by call department. So, and then again, calling upon, whatever measures are needed here for the grouped entities and or the summary bar as well. We need queue call counts, voicemail call counts, percentages, etc. So we can certainly easily embed those in there. So again, this won't be the granular kind of enterprise-wide version that was just kind of walking us through in the reporting structures, but definitely it's attainable for ease of use for a manager. So even on those 270 some odd calls for the previous week, how many calls were of the queued call count variety, and then breaking it down by the call queues. Now it's not secondarily broken down, but it's definitely off of one of the sites. So I don't have the luxury of seeing Birmingham and some of the other site information that we did. But if we needed to, we could certainly point directly to that site. So if I wanted to create a search filter to say call department equals Birmingham, then group it by the corresponding call departments singularly, we can certainly definitely do that as well. And then build out whatever kind of measures that are needed. So I'm including just some high-level totals for counts and durations, but also voicemail counts and rates as well. So we can see exactly how many people which department I guess is carrying their weight, or which department unfortunately is allowing too many calls to roll into voicemail, for instance. Now, there's definitely a lot of options here that we can embed with this. These widgets are not stale at a point in time. They're actually refreshing every couple of minutes. We can bring them down to, I think it's 5 minutes is going to be the refresh interval, just because the Zoom API doesn't release live call data to us. It has to be kind of a terminated, successfully terminated call, if you will. So definitely these are refreshing every few minutes, so it's not stale data in a point of time. But the structured reports that we just kind of perused there a moment or so ago, definitely these can be ran ad hoc from the history section, from the report section, and or even have automated schedules built on them as well. So just kind of jump back in here. So we're playing around kind of in the history section. So if we needed to see those calls for those specific call queues, if I'm very concerned maybe with the Birmingham location, I want to see all that information, definitely we can easily build that out. Maybe a key off of called site. Just jump in here. So we know it's of the inbound variety. So I'll pick on Birmingham. I think they had, is in the 80 call count variety? Oh, 98. Okay. So if we want to see all these calls, we can certainly throw them in here. There's definitely going to be zero duration calls that we'll see. If we need to go ahead and suppress those, definitely we most certainly can. But these should, let me slide to the right here. These should all be calls were of the inbound variety to the Birmingham site. Then we can see, are they going to a department? Are they going to call queues? And then we can just identify kind of this information before we take it into the reporting section to build out a structured report for ad hoc or frequency scheduling. So we can definitely do all of that, but I do want to make one last mention as well. The nice luxury of this kind of sandbox history section here within Variphy underneath the analytics. Definitely we can kind of quick search and kind of play with build queries as we need to curtail your data results that are finite for your desired likings. But also we can even read and play back the audios of the calls as well from the Zoom API. So in this section here, if you are recording your calls, you will see a play button next to a call that you can easily go ahead and call upon and listen to or download. Of course there is. So this is just my lab environment, but definitely these are downloadable. We do not store them, but those recordings are, the playback option is certainly embedded in the history section here. Just need to play it, and then it will give you kind of a little pop-up box here, not a red one stating a problem, but it'll give you the option to go ahead and play it, to pause it, to change the playback speed, and or even to download that recording if there's training scenarios that managers kind of need this for, or even if there's kind of an HR or legal matter that you actually need to get those recordings. So we can certainly pull those off the API as well. Now, as I said, today was going to be short and sweet, just to kind of showcase kind of these secondary grouping options for called queues and called departments off of sites. So just want to make everyone aware of that and bring that to the forefront. I think I'm a little light on content, but John, might we happen to have any questions from the audience here today?
There are no questions. It means
good, huh?
either you hit another walk-off homer here, or people just haven't formulated their questions. So
okay.
Let me go ahead and take back.
Sure, and that's fine that nobody has any questions at this time. Always, you can certainly feel free to to drop an email at support@variphy.com, and our top-notch support team will certainly be able to assist you with relative ease and swiftness.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Matt. Very informative and totally worth the price of admission. We'll wrap up now by getting to the moment everyone's been waiting for, announcing the winner of this week's $50 Amazon gift card, Jeremy Shupik. Congratulations, Jeremy. Your account manager will be reaching out to get that in your hands or email. I want to thank you, each of you once again for attending today. We appreciate you making time in your busy schedule to join us. Our next session will be on August 2nd, when Dre and Brian will take you through the UCCX reporting templates and show you how to best utilize them. Thanks, everyone. We look forward to next time.
Thank you all.
Bye for
Take
now.
care. Bye-bye.